right, welcome to today's episode. My name is Tom Rolley for System.io. Let's talk about this interesting topic, at least if you're a systems and processes geek like myself, about where do you split up your system processes? Where do you get your processes and divide the lines? So let's first of all look at an extreme version of this. And that is that if a system just had one process. Now, some systems are so small that they will just have one process naturally. But you can think of other systems that might have a really long set of processes, like a lot of things to do. And one solution might be, hey, let's just make it one long process and you just work through. Now, that's on the extreme. Why would you want that? Well, I don't know. I don't know why you would want that. It's going to be pretty rewarding if you get to the end, but the downsides of that are, number one, it's going to be difficult to improve. Number two, there's not going to be any inbuilt milestones for when you complete a step. Number three, it's going to be easy to lose your way. So they're the advantages of starting to think about splitting that giant list of steps into processes. Another thing that you could take into account is, well, if we had multiple people, where could I assign these naturally so that there's kind of a gap here and a gap here and a gap here? Now, this arose recently when I was speaking to my scheduler, my audiovisual team, to say, hey, let's take the YouTube edited video and put it out to the Facebook page again and also to LinkedIn. And they're like, yep, no worries. Now, when I went through and made the edits, I was like, well, it's pretty natural to me that this is all being done through the one program. It's called Hero Post. It's similar to Later or to Hootsuite or any of the social media scheduling tools. And I was like, well, this all needs to be done in here, so why don't we just stick it in here? Now, what was interesting to me was that my team were like, look, we are missing this. We want to bring it out and have it separate. I'm like, cool. Okay, let's do that. But to do that, you got to create another process and duplicate what the process was, get rid of basically create three versions of it. And in this moment, as I'm actually going through this, I'm like, hang on, okay, why don't we just make it two? One that's about quote cards. It's like, yep, you got to post up to 6 quote cards, 3 to Facebook, 3 to Instagram. And then post a process about videos, which is one post to YouTube, one post to LinkedIn, and one post to Facebook. Now, that didn't make much sense, but even as I talk through this, I'm beginning to see that, well, hang on, maybe that we've got to look at, hey, what's the best way to do this? The reason that YouTube needs to be its own separate one is that Hero Post, for whatever reason, can't handle the uploads from Drive. That it can handle, it won't post properly. There's some posting error. I don't know. I'm like, I brought it up with support, hasn't been fixed. I'm like, all right, stuff it. Let's just go direct to YouTube. So that one clearly needs to be its own process. But the other two videos, the reposting to Facebook and the posting to LinkedIn, perhaps that's just one process. And suddenly we've got thoughts around, okay, if the quote cards is one and the videos are one and they're both done, then there's a good feeling that, okay, I've got clarity that I'm not just posting. One other issue that might be arising here is in the addition of new work into an existing system. This is quite interesting, that the reason that the team wanted to have another process or two for this work was to identify that it was new work, that it was a new process that was going in. So rather than hiding it in the existing process, that they actually were like, okay, yeah, I got to make sure that I do this. And that might be beneficial. What I'm taking out of this is that I'm going to suggest that my team actually have one new process instead of two, that they make that new process about posting of the video and that it gets posted to Facebook and it gets posted to LinkedIn, and that's one process. that it is a logical experience that that same video is going to go to the two different places. All that needs to be done is changing the dates on it. And so this is one final takeaway, in that discussing it with you, discussing it with my team, that the right steps arise. The cool thing is that when you have living systems, these changes can be made, these adaptations can be made to find what works best. If this was something that just sat in the bookshelf and never got used, then who cares whether it's 1 process, 3 processes, 17 processes? It's not getting used anyway. The real trick that you have to learn is that your systems have to be living. Just like a tree that's alive will grow and a tree that is dead will decay and fall apart, this is the same with your systems. You must find a way to get your team to naturally use your systems so that they are alive, so that they grow, so that they can adapt, so that they can change, so they can evolve, so that the best thing can arise. That is essentially what we have been through in this episode. The evolution in my own mind as I've talked through this system to find that improvement. Then that improvement is that the addition of these 2 new postings of videos should be 1 new process added into the existing system. I hope that you got a lot out of this, that in talking through this, you can see the way that I'm thinking through this. How do these processes integrate into the system in order for this new process to be successfully completed? I'm going to try it out. I won't actually know whether it works or not until my team gives me the feedback and says, hey, yeah, that worked. And hopefully if you've got a good team, they will start to evolve like this anyway. They'll start to make these changes. They're like, you know what? It'd be better if we had that as a separate process so that I could remind myself that those 2 new videos needed to be done. Great, let's go ahead and do that. All right, that's all I've got for you today. If you want help around systemization, processes, templates, and the results that your systems create, head over to System.io. Thanks for tuning in today. I look forward to seeing you in tomorrow's episode as we continue this exploration of the power of systems and processes in business. See you then.